Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and, well, it's officially the launch day for Xbox's first major first-party game for 2024, being Hellblade 2. You know, it's really been a long time coming. It's been a long wait. They first announced this game back in 2020 as a part of the Xbox Series X launch hype train. It was meant to showcase the power of the Xbox Series X, and now here we are 4 years later, and it's finally out. The big question is, did it live up to its expectations? And we're going to talk about that today, as well as an outrageous rumor that sparked a lot of controversy right before its launch. Now, do stay tuned for some Nintendo news as well, because they actually announced a surprising acquisition, and then we'll also talk about an update for the future of Final Fantasy. Let's just go and get right into this Hellblade 2 story, though, because reviews have been rolling out all day long. As of this recording, it currently sits at an 81 overall score on Metacritic, which puts it right in line with the first game as well, which also scored an 81. And one thing that's actually really interesting about this is that the first game had less mixed reviews, but they still have the exact same score, which kind of tells me that the people who liked the sequel really likes it a lot. They are giving it a higher score, which kind of balances out those lower mixed grades that we're currently seeing. Now, you can kind of take that as you will, but ultimately what I've gathered from the reviews is that if you like the first game, you're probably going to like the sequel as well. I think that's really the important takeaway. Just like the first game, its story and its visuals are clearly the main focal points that they wanted to showcase. It's a slower paced game, and the main attraction isn't necessarily its combat. It really is on the visuals and its story. It's also a shorter experience that's going to take you roughly around 5 to 7 hours to go through. But my goodness, what a visual showcase this game is. I've seen various people today describe it as a true next-generation experience, and possibly even the best-looking game this generation. Now, as we know, though, that is in sacrifice to its frame rate, which is 30 FPS. I do think that that's important to understand, but because this is a slower-paced game, that 30 FPS kind of leans in its favor. So ultimately, big congrats to Ninja Theory and to Xbox for their successful launch, and hopefully it'll perform well in terms of player engagement. But that's also where this story takes a bit of a turn. I was honestly dumbfounded when I first heard about this, but basically, Ninja Theory sent out a launch message, which you can see here. It says, "Hi everyone, as we sit on the eve of the release of Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, I wanted to thank you, our fans, on behalf of everyone here at Ninja Theory. We see you and we hear you when you give us such love and support, when you tell us how much Senua means to you, when you tell us how much you are looking forward to the game, and how much faith you have in us to continue Senua's story in a way that does justice to the connection so many of you have to her and to Hellblade. From the very beginning of Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, we have had you in mind, and I truly hope that when you play the second chapter of Senua's story, you will find that familiar connection once again, and that also so many more people will find their way to Senua and her world too. Making video games is difficult. Much like Senua, we as a team have been guided by a conviction to achieve our quest, to make a game that sinks you deep into Senua's world and to take you on a journey that leaves you thinking and feeling. I believe we have achieved our quest, and I hope you'll agree. I'm very proud of the game, very proud of our team, and very proud of you, our fans, who have supported us on this magical journey. Thank you, Don Matthews, studio head." Now, when I first read this, I was like, okay, they're basically sending out a message that they've worked hard on delivering a product that fans can be excited about. I really didn't look further into this message at the time, because we've seen other studios do similar things, whether that be the Pokemon series, whether that be for Astral Blade. Square Enix has done things like this. A studio sending out a thank you message on launch really is not all that uncommon, whether that be through video or, in this case, through a written message. But in this specific situation, certain people latched onto this, and they took this message and they twisted it into a much more dire situation. All of a sudden, speculation was running rampant that this was Ninja Theory saying their goodbye because Microsoft is about ready to close them down. I mean, come on. This is honestly outrageous. And quite frankly, this is one of the reasons that so many people out there believe in an Xbox tax. Like, I get it. Xbox just shut down a few studios, including Tango Gameworks, which I've said multiple times. I thought that was a mistake. But you should also understand that if they're going to close down a studio, they're not going to do it the day that they launch a game. Like, just use your brain for 2 seconds here, and you'll quickly understand that that decision would come after they see how this game actually performs. Now, if it performs terribly, and if Ninja Theory doesn't have a promising future pipeline, well then yeah, they might look into a situation in the future. But to jump to an outrageous assumption like this because of a simple launch day message is honestly ridiculous. I don't think that I can explain this any other way. No, I can understand this line of thinking from your rabid fanboys online. Those people are always going to be over the top, just ridiculous for the sake of plastic wars. But I also saw big accounts jump to this same conclusion. And I'm just like, okay, logic apparently died once the internet took off. I mean, I don't know what's happening here. Nonetheless, though, this speculation, rumor, whatever you want to call it, has already been debunked. Yeah, big surprise, right? But Jez Corden actually gave us an update and confirmed this on Windows Central, where he said some people on social media have been trying to spin this message as a negative, given Microsoft's recent closure of studios like Tango Gameworks, with some extrapolating that Ninja Theory, as a smaller team within the Microsoft pantheon, may be targeted by Microsoft cost cutters in the financial suite. However, we can confirm via our trusted sources that, in addition to Project Mara, Ninja Theory's next game has already been greenlit. There are no plans whatsoever to close the studio anytime soon. So there you go. Everybody can just kind of relax for the time being. Project Mara is still in development, and apparently something else is as well. Maybe possibly a new IP, or hey, this could even be Hellblade 3. I guess we'll see in the future, but Ninja Theory, as of today, yes, still remains a part of Xbox's future. Now, we did also get a surprising announcement from Nintendo. We don't usually think about Nintendo when talking about acquisitions, but they just bought a studio from the Embracer Group because, we all know they're an absolute mess. And this is for Shiver Entertainment. Now, that's the big surprise because Shiver's main expertise is to port games. Some of their recent efforts includes ports for some big-time AAA games to the Nintendo Switch, such as Mortal Kombat 1 and Hogwarts Legacy. So, it very much seems like Nintendo was satisfied with their work on the Switch, and they want to expand that partnership going into the eventual Switch successor. From Nintendo's own words, though, they said the purpose of this acquisition is that Nintendo aims to secure high-level resources for porting and developing software titles. Going forward, even after it becomes a part of the Nintendo Group, Shiver's focus will remain the same, continuing commissions that port and develop software for multiple platforms, including Nintendo Switch. The acquisition will be completed pending satisfaction of all relevant customary closing conditions. Now, that is noteworthy to this discussion, though. It doesn't necessarily seem like Nintendo is going to stop them from working on other platforms as well, or at least for the time being. Now, that might be because they're already working with other companies prior to this buyout, so, similar to what we've seen with Xbox in the past, they're not going to end those contracts just because they're being acquired. But at the end of the day, I do actually think that this is a smart move by Nintendo. The way I kind of look at this is that this is kind of similar to some of Sony's recent acquisitions, such as Nixxes. And that's actually quietly one of PlayStation's better buyouts. Nixxes has made Sony a lot of money with all of those different PC ports. And here you have Shiver, which can kind of bring the element over to Nintendo, though also in a different way. Really, if you look at it, one of Nintendo's longtime struggles has been securing third-party games. But here they can kind of work on that issue by having their own internal studio that can port some of those bigger games that might otherwise miss their platform because it is weaker than what PlayStation and Xbox has to offer. Let me know what you all think about this acquisition, though. Do you think that it's a smart idea by Nintendo, or do you find this a little bit head-scratching? Let me hear it in the comments below. Now, we do have one more thing to talk about today, and that's yet another Final Fantasy remake. We've heard rumors these past few years that Final Fantasy VII isn't necessarily the only remake that Square Enix is currently working on. We've heard rumblings here and there that remakes for Final Fantasy IX and Final Fantasy X are also in the works, which, if that's true, that would actually be huge. Now, I will say I don't like the idea that they're just completely ignoring Final Fantasy VIII and they're just jumping straight to 9 and 10. I actually really like Final Fantasy VIII. It's one of my own personal favorites. But, nonetheless here, I'm a big fan of Final Fantasy IX as well, and I do know that 10 is one of the more popular entries in the series. Well, we did actually get an update for these rumors from the increasingly well-known insider Midori. Here recently, she's proven herself to be more than credible, though as always, you should still take this information with a grain of salt until something more official comes out. Regardless, though, according to Midori, the Final Fantasy X Remake doesn't exist currently. But on the other side of things here, the Final Fantasy IX Remake is legitimate. Now, personally, that's music to my ears because, like I said before, I am a big fan of Final Fantasy IX. Though, if this actually is true, I will be interested in how they go about doing a 9 remake. The original Final Fantasy IX probably has the most unique art style for the series, and I want to see how they translate that. It is much more of a cartoony-looking game than some of the other entries, but I think they could potentially make it look beautiful with modern-day visuals. There's actually a fan-made Unreal Engine project that's up on YouTube. Definitely go check it out. It really does look amazing. So I'd like to see Square Enix do something like that, but either way, I do hope this rumor proves true because it really is a special game, and that remains all of these years later. Final Fantasy IX is absolutely excellent. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode, but as always, do make sure to hit that subscribe button, and until next time, peace out.